Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I want to welcome everyone, of course, to a new year and to the 88th gathering of the U.S. Conference of Mayors for our winter meeting, the largest gathering, as we like to say, of mayors anywhere on the planet. Many of them gathered here behind me as we kick off what we know will be a very exciting week here in Washington, D.C. Glad that we're here in a week when there's literally nothing else going on. Basically have the media all to ourselves this week. No, we know that we've got a job to do, and we feel that actually this is a great time for mayors to be in Washington, D.C. The reason we think that is because now more than ever, Washington and the country need to be reminded that it's still possible to look past party affiliation and work together and get things done. Let me introduce myself. I'm Brian Barnett, Mayor of the City of Rochester Hills and President of the United States Conference of Mayors. And it is the mantra of this organization that we shed party labels to solve problems, but it's more than just a talking point. It's proven by our record, and it's reflected in our agenda. And it's proven in large part by the men and women that are standing up here this morning. And I'd like to, this is always the most challenging part, I'd like to ask them all to do a quick roll call to introduce themselves.
All right.
And the focus here, mayors, is your name and your city, not your latest economic development win, your football score, baseball team, anything. So why don't we start way down here at Mayor Cabalden, and whoever else is trying to slide in as best we can, Mayor County.
Christopher Cabalden, I'm the Mayor of West Sacramento, California. John Mitchell, Mayor of New Bedford, Massachusetts.
Yvonne Spice, Mayor of Framingham, Massachusetts.
Frank County, Des Moines, Iowa.
Artie Davis, Augusta, Georgia.
Jim Hovland, Eden, Minnesota.
Nan Whaley, Dayton.
Kemi Yagashima, Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Victoria Woodard, Tacoma, Washington. Latoya Cantrell, City of New Orleans.
McKinley Price, Newport News, Virginia.
Good morning, Lyrian De La Bears, Lincoln, Nebraska.
Woody Brown, City of Largo, Florida.
Andy Ginther, Columbus, Ohio.
Aloha, Kirk Caldwell, Honolulu.
Joe Gannon, Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Sabina Zafar, City of San Ramon, California.
Lily May, City of Fremont, California.
Kim Norton, Rochester, Minnesota.
Steve Adler, Austin, Texas.
Buddy Dyer, Orlando.
Gary McCarthy, Schenectady, New York.
David Halbert, Dublin, California. Mark Mitchell, Tempe, Arizona. Brian Waller, Piscataway Township, New Jersey.
Muriel Bowser, Washington, D.C.
Rich David, Binghamton, New York. Greg Fischer, Louisville.
Steve Benjamin, Columbia, South Carolina.
Randy Henderson, Fort Myers, Florida.
Eric Garcetti, Los Angeles.
Roy Buell, Dubuque, Iowa. Bill Wild, Westland, Michigan.
Tim McDonough, Hope, New Jersey.
John Giles, Mesa.
Christine Hunchofsky, Parkland, Florida.
Maureen Miller-Brosnan, Livonia, Michigan.
Juan Carlos Bermudez, Doral, Florida.
Christina Mern, Findlay, Ohio.
Michelle de la Isla, Topeka, Kansas.
Marty Walsh, Boston, Massachusetts. We decided to take the Super Bowl out this year.
We appreciate you. Yeah, we appreciate you.
Chris Barnett, Orion, Michigan, and Brian's little brother.
Jenny Durkin, City of the Future, also known as Seattle, Washington.
Elizabeth Couts, Burnsville, Minnesota.
And Chris Cabalden once again.
It's like when you do the panorama shot, he's in it twice.
We also have some additional mayors coming in, filing in.
Let's go this way.
Eric, mayor, slide in.
All right. Tito Brown, Mayor of Youngstown, Ohio.
Yes.
Right, and we may be joined by other mayors as well. Thank you all for,
We got Oklahoma City.
yes,
Who?
David Holt, Oklahoma City.
Never heard of him.
Eric Johnson from Dallas, Texas.
County from Des Moines. Remember Iowa?
Yes, yes. Basically every mayor in America is here, as you can tell. And I can tell you that our 88th winter meeting is off to a really exceptional start. We've already discussed the U.S. economic forecast for our cities and the current state of opportunity zones with Senator Scott. We've reviewed a report from the Mayor's Water Council and have received remarks from the EPA. We're also examining ideas to promote economic growth in distressed communities. Our attendance and engagement is strong. We have mayors from 46 states and every corner of our country, from Miami to Anchorage and from San Diego to Boston. We have mayors representing every size community as well, from Hope, New Jersey's 2,000 residents to New York City's 8.7 million. In fact, I'm pleased to say that the mayors from America's 3 largest cities are here with us this week and will all be speaking to our membership. My friends Mayor de Blasio, Mayor Garcetti and Mayor Lightfoot are all here, and we'll get a first-hand look at the innovative work transpiring in those three great American cities. Later today, we'll hear from presidential candidate former Mayor Mike Bloomberg, and tomorrow, former Mayor Pete Buttigieg will be with us. Fans of both standing behind me. Both of them, you know, of course, are very proud to be colleagues of ours. A pollster and communications specialist, Dr. Frank Luntz, a mayoral favorite, will be here to share with us what Americans are looking for in the national discussion. And later today, Valerie Jarrett, the board chair of When We All Vote, will address all of us during our Women Mayors Leadership Alliance plenary session. And then finally, we'll conclude our week with a visit to the White House, where we'll meet with several cabinet members, senior members of the president's staff, and of course, President Trump himself, to talk about transforming America's communities. We're excited to visit with the White House and appreciate the president's warm and inclusive invitation. You know, as mayors, we are on the front lines of so many great challenges, and we know how many policy decisions actually affect people and our American communities. That's why this week we'll be putting forward our mayor's vision, the 2020 Vision for America, our call to action. We'll be asking everyone who comes to speak with us to comment and hopefully adopt the 12 principles that we hold dearly in this document. Over 99 mayors were participating in this document's preparation, centered around our 3 I's of infrastructure, innovation, and inclusion. It's all built out on proven solutions that mayors are implementing each and every day in their cities. And at this meeting, we'll be hearing from our mayors about what they're doing locally to solve the great challenges of our day, addressing everything from homelessness, housing, and human rights to transportation, trade, and technology, all centered around those 3 I's. But we know that to fully meet our potential, we must have a partnership between federal and local officials. And that's what this call to action can provide. And we'll continue to use it to engage candidates for federal office, including those running for our nation's highest office. We believe as mayors that we are at a historic moment. This is a year of great consequence. There are serious issues that will be debated on the biggest stages. These are the issues that matter most to the residents who elected us and who live in our cities, issues that center around the conference's bipartisan platform of infrastructure, innovation, and inclusion. Now, we all know that our conference is taking place against the backdrop of challenging times that some would characterize as the ongoing dysfunction in Washington. But we're not going to be distracted. As we look back at history, Thomas O'Neill III, the son of House Speaker Tip O'Neill, wrote that the unyielding standoffs between his dad and President Reagan were, in fact, rare. He wrote, "What both men deplored more than the other's political philosophy was stalemate, and a country that was so polarized by ideology and party politics that could not move forward. There were tough words and important disagreements, but yet there was a stronger commitment to get things done." And that's what America's mayors are doing here and at home. And in both places, we find that we all have much more in common and agree on much more than what we disagree. We remain eternally optimistic, and we're bullish on America's future. And I'm looking forward to working with the men and women standing beside me here today and over the next 3 days. We have much to do, and I'm confident that we will get it done. So I appreciate you being here, and before we get to questions, we've asked a few leadership mayors to share a few thoughts with us as well. The Conference of Mayors is led by a president, vice president, and second vice president, and we're fortunate to have a fantastic team. Our first vice president is the tremendous mayor of Louisville, Mayor Greg Fischer. I'd like to ask him to come forward and share his thoughts. Mayor Fischer.
All right.
Thank you, President Barnett, and good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, as President Barnett referred to, there is a small proceeding going on across town right now. But I think what's most important to the citizens of America is what happens up here with this bipartisan group of leaders at the local level. And we know that when Americans are surveyed about who they trust the most to get the job done, it's this group of people right up here. Mayors are in the reality business, and we have to keep our eyes on the prize, and that is making sure that each and every one of our citizens are connected to a bright and hopeful future. And there's not a Republican way to do that, and there's not a Democratic way to do that. This morning we've heard some news that kind of highlights the job that we're in. One is, doesn't look like we're going to have a recession. At least that's what the experts say, and this economy or this recovery is long in the tooth right now. But our jobs are easier when we have a healthy economy. But the reality of our job is that too many people don't feel like they're connected to that prosperous economy that's going on. So while we celebrate the big picture, what we're working on is that picture of all the folks that are being left behind and left out. When you take a look at the longer GDP growth of our country right now, we're starting to see the impact of the decline of the number of immigrants that are being let into our country. You grow GDP through productivity or population. So we're seeing a population decrease forecasted for America, much like we have not seen in decades. So the reality of getting immigration fixed for our country has never been more important from a moral standpoint, for the people that are in our cities, both documented and undocumented, and for the productivity reason to create opportunity for our citizens. So those are the kind of issues that we'll be working on here today to make sure the health of our cities is vibrant and alive for a great future. And I couldn't imagine doing it with any greater group of folks than these great bipartisan Americans, these great mayors right here. Thank you.
Greg. Next up, I'd like to ask our second vice president, a beloved leader in this organization for many years, Dayton Mayor Nan Whaley, to come up and give some remarks. Mayor Whaley.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure, even in these interesting times, to get together with the people that get it done, fellow mayors from across the country. As we think about the history of the Conference of the Mayors, this is our 88th meeting, 88th winter meeting. We actually started in a time when there was great inaction, when mayors were coming together to say, we need partnership and we need advocacy for the work of the people living in our community. We are doing that today. We continue to have frustration from the lack of partnership we see from this city. We continue to call for action around gun violence prevention, around opioid epidemics, around vast inequality in our community. These mayors, bipartisan Democrats and Republicans, are getting it done. Besides Mayor Bowser, we don't see a lot happening in this city. We look forward to the opportunity to continue to advocate, and we stand ready for a partnership that means that we will move our communities forward and move America forward along with it. It's a pleasure to be here with you all.
Thank you. We're also fortunate to have a few of our past presidents here, both Mayor Benjamin from Columbia and Mayor Kautz from Burnsville. And I'd like to ask Mayor Kautz from Burnsville, Minnesota, to come up and give some remarks. Mayor Kautz.
Thank you, President Barnett, and it's great to be in Washington with my fellow mayors because we do get things done, as everyone has spoken to. But one of the things with the 3 I's that I want to talk about is inclusion. Because to get things done, we have to work with our partners at home. Each and every one of us have a business community that we work with. Each and every one of us have residents that we work with. And it's important for us to be inclusive and to be caring so that when we talk with our people, they know that we're listening and that we'll work together to get things done. Whether that is working with our businesses to reduce their carbon footprint, that is happening in Burnsville when we work with Xcel Energy, and who has taken, in April 13, 2015, I stood there and saw the last coal train come into Black Dog Power Plant. These are the kinds of things that we do to get things done because we don't get help from Washington. In Minnesota, we also work together. The mayors of Greater Minnesota and the mayors of the metro cities work together to learn about what are the issues in Greater Minnesota and how do we work together to get those things done. That's how we are becoming more and more inclusive as mayors, to make sure that we work together to get things done when we can't depend on Washington. There is so much that we have done alone without the help of Washington, because we need to continue to serve the people that elected us to office. And for mayors, we are nonpartisan. So when people ask me, what party do you belong to? I say the Burnsville Party. Why? Because they're the ones who elect me to office.
Our next mayor to give some remarks is a strong advocate for mayors nationally. He comes from the city of Los Angeles. If you don't know where that is, it's a great town. It's about 1,700 miles southwest west of Rochester Hills.
It's a good place.
He's a great friend and a strong leader nationally on many topics. Our good friend, the mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you so much, President Barnett, for the geography lesson and your leadership. Thank you to you and our officers. Thank you to Mayor Bowser for hosting us every single year. We rotate our second meeting to other cities, but we're always here in your town, and you do such a beautiful job leading this city and hosting us. Let me just say how proud I am to be part of this brotherhood and sisterhood of mayors. When 2 officers are shot and killed in Honolulu, we reach out to Mayor Caldwell. When we have shootings in Dayton and El Paso and Chattanooga and too many of our places, Parkland, we reach out to each other. And Americans know that there are 50 states in this union, although a troubling number of Americans still think there's 52. But most Americans know there's 50 states in this union. Most Americans don't know there's 19,000 plus communities that comprise the United States, just as important as those 50 states. This is where democracy is still alive and well. And at a moment of division, at a moment of disunity, at a moment of too many words of hate, of us clinging to our tribal allegiances over our national ones, come here and feel what it means on infrastructure and immigration, on our climate crisis and on jobs, what it means for all of us to come together as Americans and not put America first, but put Americans first here. And I'm so proud to be a part of this group. I look forward especially to continue to push Washington forward to copy what cities are doing on infrastructure with a more than $2 trillion, some say $3 trillion deficit for our infrastructure. We have a plan. We want everybody running for president, whether it's the incumbent or challenger, to adopt that and to pass that, to put us on a track to rebuild a great country once again, to make sure that we have immigration reform and to make sure that we have, with our climate crisis, this decade that will define life as we know it, a moment for us to act and to take action together. So, también en español yo quiero decir, es un gran placer estar aquí con este grupo de hermanas y hermanos de alcaldes. Es muy importante para nosotros porque hay una oportunidad para unirse este país y juntos nosotros podemos hacer en el interés de toda la gente de los Estados Unidos. With that, I want to pass it over to our host mayor to close us out. She's an amazing leader among mayors, and we're so proud to be in her town, Muriel Bowser.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody, and I want to welcome you all to Washington, D.C., your nation's capital, in my hometown. I almost agree with everything that Mayor Garcetti said, except reminding everyone that we should be 51 states in our union. I represent 700,000 tax-paying Americans who are just like every one of your citizens, except our Congresswoman doesn't vote, and we don't have 2 senators. And we know if we have more senators that do the right thing, we can get more things done. So we will stay focused on statehood for Washington, but I also want to join with my fellow mayors in saying how important the U.S. Conference of Mayors is to us, our leadership and sharing best practices, how important the Conference of Mayors is to us in banding together about issues that are important to Americans. Not Democrat or Republican issues, but issues that are important to Americans. For us, we're very focused on making sure that our city is safe and making sure we band together on common sense reforms for gun safety in our city. I would love visiting Nan, but I don't want it to be because of rampant gun violence that took too many lives in her city. I don't want to go to neighborhoods in my city where easy access to guns that come from across our borders are taking the lives of people. So we have to stay focused on that. Mayors from across the country are very concerned about housing and making sure we're dealing with a housing crisis in our nation. We can do a lot on the local level, but we can do so much more with national policies that make sense for all of us. We know, and we've been together before talking about infrastructure, and we've been promised national policies that will not only rebuild our country, but put our people to work. There's nothing more important than making sure, whether you're in a big city or a small town, than having a good paying job where you can have safe and affordable housing and provide for your family. And we know that infrastructure is one way to do it. So I join with our President Barnett in calling on everybody who cares about our country and wants to lead us to stay focused on the mayor's plan, because it is true indeed that a mayor, none of us, whether we're Democrats or Republicans or without a party, can go out to the grocery stores, go out to churches or synagogues and not be able to tell our residents that we're getting things done for them each and every day. Welcome to Washington.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. We continue to be appreciative of your generosity in opening your city to us each and every year. What she didn't mention is while we're here, we all actually stay at her house. So it's really pretty exceptional. You know, I think what you're seeing here must be fairly unusual in this city, which is to see so many Republicans and Democrats and independents standing together, getting along, talking about working together. And we wear that proudly. And we hope that we stand in stark contrast to most of the other things you cover in the city. Members behind me will probably vote for 6 or 8 different presidential candidates over the next few months and to the end of the year. What we will continue to do each and every day is work together. We feel a shared success. I want to see every other mayor here succeed, because the more they succeed, the more our country succeeds. So we stand here, as I mentioned earlier, to work with hopefully a willing federal partner, to showcase what we've been able to accomplish, to showcase what cooperation looks like. And so we're happy to answer any questions at this moment. Just before I do that, I want to say one other thing. One of the reasons we work so well as an organization is because we have great leadership and a great team. That team is led by Tom Cochran, our CEO and Executive Director, who's over there in the corner, and an incredible team of staff support for all the different areas that we dive into. So we have a very busy agenda, but we have just a few moments to answer some questions. I see the gentleman in the blue. Please announce who you are with. And
Sam Ford with ABC7 here in Washington. I asked Mayor Bowser about ghost guns. I understand that is I don't know about the other cities, but that seems to be a growing issue here in Washington.
Thank you. Thanks, Sam. And it is true that we saw in the district alone an increase over a 3-year period of, we had like 25 ghost guns discovered, I think, in 2015, and now we're over 100. Ghost guns are guns that can be purchased over the internet in different parts and then assembled. And right now, our laws nationally don't address them. So we all can do our part with our local gun laws, but this, we know, is an issue that needs national attention.
We have banned ghost guns in Columbia, South Carolina. We've banned ghost guns in Columbia, South Carolina, and will continue to force good folks. You know, it always amazes me. Many of our cities have seen gun violence either on the individual level or on the mass scale. That someone always says, well, if a good guy with a gun was there, this wouldn't have happened. The reality is that good guys with guns either pass good laws. In the city, my city, 7 of our council members, 6 are gun owners. I ran the state's second largest law enforcement agency. I support Second Amendment rights, but with gun rights come gun responsibilities. And it is foolish, illogical to suggest that firearms without or with obscured serial numbers are illegal, but that firearms with no serial number, untraceable by law enforcement, should be legal. We decided as a city unanimously, council, that we would ban the assembly of ghost guns in our city, and we will probably have an interesting dialogue with our state, as some of us asserted that preemption laws might prohibit us from doing so. We disagree with that, but it's so important as we look at 400 million guns on the streets of this country and 325 million or so citizens, that we continue to act on the local level to push for common sense rules that an overwhelming number of Republicans support, the overwhelming number of Democrats supports, independents, and also gun owners support. We got to keep pushing the local level to make that happen. I'm Steve Benjamin, Columbia, South Carolina.
I heard about you.
Exercise. Mayor Benjamin and Mayor Bowser just gave a really wonderful example of local leadership in the absence of federal leadership. Yes.
Hi, my name is Alana Wise. I'm with WAMU here in D.C. My question is also for Mayor Bowser. What do you think is the federal remedy to ghost guns? And furthermore, what are you doing to work with other local law enforcement agents to address the problem of gun violence in D.C.?
Well, thank you for that question. And I think the answer I'm going to give you, many mayors would give you are facing similar issues. Frequently, people ask us or ask me, say, Mayor, you have very strict gun laws in Washington, D.C. How are there so many guns in our city? And part of our response is that we're surrounded by states who have a different view about how to regulate guns. And that is why I am so encouraged that in Virginia, they are now taking up a review and hopefully vote in this session on common sense gun laws. And so that is one way. But we know that we really need the Congress to act on a national policy for common sense gun regulations. Now, you know, I have a certain view about this, but I want the Congress to be able to pass a sensible bill that protects us, that allows for us to really be focused on straw purchases, which we've worked with Virginia on, to be focused on background checks, and to be focused on what happens at gun shows. That will make the district safer.
Brian.
Yes. Yeah.
I also just want to give great credit to the U.S. Conference of Mayors. After the deadly shootings of El Paso and Dayton, nearly 400 mayors signed on to a letter, a bipartisan letter, calling for Congress to act. We then came to Congress to call for the passage of H.R. 8, just an up or down vote in the Senate. We continue to advocate for this work. We have nearly 216 Congress folks that have co-sponsored the assault weapon ban. Mayors are active in this work. Again, we are seeing no movement out of the Capitol, and our communities are begging for this change. Mayors are on the front line of this issue. We will continue to be on the front line of this issue because we have no other choice, because we get the calls at night when someone in our community has died from just insane gun violence. I appreciate the support of the Conference of Mayors and these great mayors who fight every day for common sense gun legislation in this country.
This is an issue that, as Mayor Whaley mentioned, the conference, I think, has taken the national lead in, not only having so many bipartisan mayors support the letter to Leader McConnell and Mr. Schumer, but being here actually to advocate for it. On Friday morning, we'll have a session that I wish we didn't have to schedule, but I'm sure it will be highly attended. We're going to have a meeting led by Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, talking about violence in our cities, specifically talking about how to prepare for and respond to mass shootings. It's unfortunate that this is a topic, but I think 13 mayors will speak on personal experience from having had to go through this in their cities. And so it is a very real issue and something we will continue to be on the front lines. We have time for one last question. Yes?
Doug Sorter, CQ roll call. You had a lot of tax credits and block grant programs in here. Do you have an overall cost for this, or how it might be paid?
Yeah, the great question. The question was looking through our 12-point plan, talking about some of the tax credits, and really how do you pay for a plan like this? Here's the deal. We never want that to end the discussion because we know that there's a very complicated answer to some of those things. But what I would tell you is that the men and women behind me have implemented local solutions to many of these by finding innovative ways to fund many of these initiatives. In the absence of infrastructure funding from Washington, both from Republicans and Democrats, we found innovative ways, whether it be through public partnerships, whether it be through unique ways to ask our residents to support. We aren't going to let money stand in the way. We know that that is a barrier, but it can't be the barrier to communication. It can't be the barrier to starting these conversations on some of these really important issues that it seems to be like, well, unless you can find a full solution to pay for the thing, soup to nuts, we're not going to go down that road. And I think the more you get a chance to talk and see some of the innovative solutions that America's mayors are putting forward, I think we'll see some of these solutions happen moving forward, and as we deal with the Congress as well. Thank you so much. We've got a very busy agenda. We will see you all shortly. Thank you for being here.